hometown of Gallatin. But he's here to try and help again reinforce my credentials, my strength, and the fact that we have a very close tie with not only the president but his family and their desire to see me fill this open Senate seat for Tennessee.
And for some, you may still be a new face in the race, you know, maybe for the folks who haven't paid attention to every ad. Just kind of basically, what is your message to Tennessee voters?
I think Tennessee voters that don't know me should know that I'm a Christian conservative. I'm a businessman with an outsider's perspective. And that I'm running to help President Trump continue the winning streak that he's put our nation on and he's put Tennessee on. And I'm going to stand with the president to help stand up against these calls for radical socialist change that are coming from the Democrats, and also to stand up to their never-ending quest to impeach our president and change the results not only of the 2016 election, but to try to affect the results of 2020.
And if you're successful, and not just in the primary, but in the general, you'll be replacing longtime Senator Lamar Alexander. You know, his priorities here locally were national parks, Y-12, ORNL. How do you plan to continue his legacy in Tennessee?
I'm not planning to continue anybody's legacy, but to stand up for what Tennesseans need in Washington today. At the same time, every one of those items that you mentioned in terms of Oak Ridge National Labs, Y-12, the great relationship that we have with the University of Tennessee, and the wonderful national parks are all going to be top priorities of mine.
So they'll all be priorities.
Absolutely.
A lot of coverage here and throughout the state is focused on rural hospitals.
Sure.
A lot of them either have closed or are facing closures. A lot of uninsured Tennesseans still in the state. Do you have a plan to combat that problem?
We have a lot of work to do on the healthcare system, and one of the main things we have to do is stand up against the Democrats' push to continue to socialize medicine here. If you look at this Medicare for All that they're proposing, they would essentially remove our private health care. They would put the federal government in charge of every aspect of it. If you think health care is expensive now, wait till the federal government's in charge of every aspect of it. I'm very concerned about our rural economies, and what's happening with our rural hospital systems has got to be addressed. I've been spending time with hospital administrators, people involved with the system, to talk about new ways to address these populations that will take into account the rapid changes there.
Do you have any strategies in mind for how to tackle the rural health care issue?
There are a number of issues that we've been discussing, whether it's using new technologies like telemedicine, new business models like a hub and spoke system that utilize maybe smaller units in a rural area, but take advantage of, you know, centers of excellence that are located maybe a little further away, but making sure that that type of system collaboration is occurring so that we can deliver the best of the health care that we have here to Tennesseans.
Any of those strategies include more money? You know, more federal reimbursements or anything like that to save rural hospitals?
I think that's going to be part of what we look at in the equation, but the entire picture has got to be looked at, I think, from a system standpoint, and make sure we have the most efficient operational model possible and that it's adequately funded.
So we were just talking about your time as the ambassador to Japan for the entire nation and your foreign policy expertise. I'm curious to know the Trump administration and do you approve of the handling of, let's say, Soleimani, the tensions that are building in Iran, and as well as Syria, pulling back from Syria?
The Democrats will never acknowledge it. But the president's move, President Trump's move to take out Soleimani, is a major foreign policy victory for the United States. President Trump has taken an important stand. Iran has been a rogue nation for 40 years. We've been negotiating with them. The previous administration tried appeasement. That didn't work. This terrible Iran deal, all it did was put Iran on a course to obtain nuclear weapons, and I think the president said it's best when he made his address to the nation. As long as he's president of the United States, Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. And if Tennessee sends me to the United States Senate, I'm going to stand with the president to make sure that's so, to make sure that Iran does not have nuclear capabilities. That'll be my goal.
And North Korea, I know we're hopping all over the globe here, but North Korea, it looks like those nuclear disarmament discussions broke down in October. I'm curious, what do you think we should be doing to see progress in that spot?
The situation in North Korea has been difficult for decades. What President Trump has done is step into a situation that was very challenging. The previous administration used a posture of strategic patience, as they called it, leading from behind. What that did was encourage nations like North Korea to continue to accelerate their programs. North Korea has been harassing the region that they're in for some time. When I lived in Japan, when I represented the United States as our ambassador, the North Koreans launched not one, but 2 intercontinental ballistic missiles over Japan. They blew up a hydrogen bomb. Japan is the only nation that's ever been on the receiving end of a nuclear weapon. I can tell you the tensions were so high. School children in central Tokyo were wearing hard hats and doing evacuation drills. but the president's standing up to North Korea. Japan has been right at our side doing that, imposing 3 consecutively tighter sets of economic sanctions have fundamentally changed the course of the negotiations. And the fact that the president has been willing to meet with their leader, Kim Jong-un, I think again has put us on a new path. Are we where we want to be? No, not yet. But we're at a fundamentally different place, and I think a better place in terms of being able to deal with and contain North Korea. And I might add, the president's actions dealing with Iran and Iraq, dealing with Soleimani, sent a very strong message to these would-be terrorists. A very strong message indeed.
This is the only question I have about impeachment, so I don't know if that brings you any relief, but it's just one question. The seat that you're eyeing in the Senate, they're going to be very busy this week, or in the weeks ahead, as an impeachment trial is looming. And, of course, the Democratic Party, as you know, are pushing for additional witnesses, specifically Michael Bolton, who wasn't available in the House proceedings, but says he'd be willing if he were subpoenaed in the Senate. Do you think that it would be fair to, or more fair, perhaps, to invite more witnesses?
I think the notion of fairness is it's an odd term to use in this discussion of impeachment. This impeachment effort has been going on since the day the president won the election in 2016. I was with the president right after the election. As we moved into our new offices, there was a picket line set up and people were shouting, "Not my president." My family and I were there with the president on the day of the inauguration. 19 minutes after the president took the oath of office, the Washington Post puts out a column, "The impeachment begins today." This is plain and simple, an effort to undo the results of the 2016 election, and I think perhaps to affect the results of 2020. I'm glad that they're going to send the articles of impeachment over. I think it's high time the president have an opportunity to clear his name. But when I talk to Tennesseans every day, they tell me they're fed up with this. I am too. We're ready for the legislature in Washington to get back to business, to get back to our business.
And perhaps for those who see not taking this potential witness, not giving this person a chance to join the conversation, is an attempt to cover up something. I mean, what do you say to people who feel that way today?
I think that people here in Tennessee can see this entire charade for what it is. The way the House conducted themselves is an embarrassment. The way they set the rules, the way they called witnesses, the way they reviewed things in secret, it was a process that's nothing short of a kangaroo court. I think that what you'll see is a much more serious process underway under Leader McConnell. They're going to use the same rules, as I understand it, that they used with Clinton. I'm sure they'll hear the arguments, they'll look at the evidence, then they'll make a decision what they're going to do about witnesses.
All right, my last question is about money. The economy's red hot. I've done several pieces on job growth and jobs numbers and what it means and which sectors are growing. It's all positive things. Stock market records, we're seeing that left and right. But there are a lot of Tennesseans who don't live by the stock market, and they perhaps maybe aren't seeing some of the effects of the strong economy. Maybe they're not earning enough they're still paycheck to paycheck. Do you have a plan, or should there be a plan to kind of help families do better in terms of earn more money or stay afloat a little easier?
That'll be one of my primary goals as U.S. Senator, is to continue to try to help Tennesseans improve their lives. A good job solves a lot of social problems. And what I hope to see is continued growth in jobs. We've seen it, but we can do more. A continued growth in wages. We're seeing blue-collar wages outstrip the growth in white-collar wages. That's a good thing, but we need to see more of it. And I've got to say I applaud Governor Lee's efforts to really focus on the rural areas of Tennessee, because that's where I'm seeing and witnessing more of that need that you're talking about. We need to find new job training programs for them to get them ready for the jobs of tomorrow. We need to recruit more companies that can utilize that workforce. And I've spent a good deal of my time making certain that foreign capital finds its home in Tennessee. The president's done a great job with deregulation, with the tax reform that he's implemented. Confidence is at all-time highs here in America. And what we're seeing is an economy in the United States that's running much better than any of the major economies around the world. What I want to see is Tennessee continue to be at the top of that list and attract more great jobs, more capital, and higher wages to our state.
All right, and you say that you want to cut red tape as a U.S. Senator. Do you see raising the federal minimum wage as more red tape and restricting businesses?
I think federal involvement in the workplace is overreached at this point. What I want to see is more opportunity. I think the president has taken the right approach in terms of clearing out some of these old, outdated regulations, making it easier for small and medium-sized businesses to do business, and also lowering the tax rate to make us far more competitive competitive as a nation. That's going to attract capital. Capital is what we need to increase job growth, and that's going to continue to increase wages. I think that's the right approach.
Ambassador Hagerty, we've covered a lot of ground. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you very much.